Hey everyone, today we have our special guest back, Burton, in order to give us an overview of how we can analyze deals within PropStream. Welcome, Burton.
Well, thanks for having me. And yes, I'm excited today. I think this is probably a very commonly brought up topic is, how do I analyze a property? We've built leads, we've made contact, but now they're calling us back to analyze, to sell their properties. What do we do? And I hope today's session can kind of cover that whole aspect.
Perfect. Let's just dive right into it.
All right, so let's get my screen shared over to you guys. And the first thing I just want to let state the obvious is that when a phone call rings and this is a homeowner calling you, the reality of it is you're not going to go from a phone call to picking up that phone call to then making an offer right then and there, right? That's just not how it works. If it did, great. I mean, I just don't think that's the reality. The truth is there's a relationship that needs to be built, right? So when someone calls you for the first time, a homeowner calls you, motivated homeowner, there's a lot of questions, a lot of things going on in that conversation. And we hope that our data can help you with that. So let me explain what I mean. So let's say, now I'm in Southern California. So let's say I'm in Southern California and I get a phone call. And so the first thing I need to do is I need to pull up that property's details. So if it's a property local to me, I can zoom in on the map and click on that parcel and then go immediately into the details of the property, right? So I can, again, click on a parcel to get a brief description of the property and then go into the details by hitting the details button. Or the other way we can pull up a property is by typing in the address. And this is probably the route most of us are going to take, right? We get that phone call. Hey, thanks for giving us a call back. What's your address? We're going to type in the address. So the difference when we type in an address is when you click on a parcel, just give you this small box. When you search the address, we take this box and we move it on the right-hand side, all but the graph. So the graph won't be there, but we will move it here on the right-hand side. Gives us room on the map so that we can show you the nearby listings right here on the right side, the neighbors, the MLS listings, the pre-foreclosures. So not only are we giving you the subject properties information, we're going to give you the local information as well. We're also going to give you the zip codes information as well. We'll take that zip code that you search that property, the property zip code, and give you the local environments listing. So for your wholesaler, this would be good because it could show you how many cash buyers are in this zip code or any other potential motivated sellers that are out there as well. And finally, but certainly not least, at the very bottom, the statistics, right? So get a phone call. Hey, thanks for calling me. What's your address? I'm typing out the address. As I said, give me a second while I pull up your information. I'm viewing all of this to see if maybe this property is worth my time or not. So from whether it has enough cash buyers in the neighborhood to the statistics, are there positive or negative price changes? Are there positive or negative rent changes? So now I can determine whether we need to fix and flip the property, buy and hold it, or maybe encourage our buyer, hey, maybe you should hold on to this property and rent it out instead of fixing and flipping it. We'll be able to see the days on market on average. So when our buyer says, hey, so that property you have on contract, how fast do you think it's going to sell? We can say, well, in this market, 4-bedroom properties are selling about 91 days on average. We can see the average monthly rent and so forth. So again, we're not yet in the details. This is simply just searching the address and what happens when you search an address versus zooming in and clicking on a parcel, okay? So again, searching the address gives you just a little bit more information. And that's what most of us are probably going to end up doing, searching by address. Now, regardless if you click on a parcel, search by address, you need to get to the details of the property, and that's by clicking on details here on the right-hand side, or again, click on the parcel and going into the details. So when we go into the details, this is our property details page. So what's in the property details page? There's a lot of information here. So let's just break down what's in the property details page, right? Before we go over it, let's just talk about what we're giving you. So PropStream has been around for 15 years. And over the 15 years, we've been just researching and talking to our users and what they're doing. And this is what we come to realize when that phone calls, when that homeowner calls you and you pick up that phone call, There are four pieces of information we realize you really want. And those four pieces of information are the following. First is property details. Because in the past, without property details, we had asked more questions, right? So let's assume, we didn't have internet, we didn't have any technology. Someone called us to sell their house. Well, we probably had a checklist of all the questions we need to ask them about the property, right? Year built, beds, bathroom, building type, roof type, etc., right? Well, today you don't need to do that because we're getting that information from the county. So first information that we're going to give you is property information. The second piece of information we're going to hand over to you is the financial information of the homeowner. Like if there's a mortgage or more than one mortgage, if there's equity on the property. And then the third piece of information we're going to give you is the situational data. Like, is the property on market? Was it bought in cash? Is it in pre-foreclosure? Does the owner have multiple properties? Is it vacant? So property data, so you can talk about the property. Financial data, so you can determine whether you need to pay off a loan or not. And if this property has enough equity or not. Third, situational data. Other than the property and financial information, what other information is going on this property that could potentially mean more motivation or more headaches along the way, depending on what the situation is. And the fourth and final thing that you need is the ability to look at local sales. The reason for that is because you're going to need to make an offer on that property, and you don't want to just randomly give them a price. You're going to want to make an offer based on the market value of that property, right? So if you're trying to get a property at half price, if you're trying to get a property at 75% price, well, what's the 100% price, right? What are properties selling for that are similar to that property you just searched? And the only way to do that is running comps. So all of that, details, financial stuff, situational stuff, and the ability to run comps is all on this one page. This is our property details page. And remember, in order to get here, you have to either click on the parcel, go into the details, or search the address and go into the details. So let's begin. Homeowner calls you, they give you the address, you pull up the details. What are we looking at now? Well, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to be able to get to see the dashboard. So here in the dashboard is a lot of information we're giving to you from all different sources. First thing we're going to give you in the dashboard is any property photos. So there are some photos of this property, and we can see the property photos. And the only way we're able to get these images are because this property was listed on the market. Now, if a property is not listed on the market, let's say perhaps the neighbor right over here, number one, when we go into the details, there are no photos. So not every property is going to have photos. For the ones that have been listed recently or are listed right now, when you go into the details, the photos are there for you to go through. Now, if you don't want the photos, you can click on map view here at the bottom right, below all the characteristics, and that will give you the satellite view, Google Maps. And you can zoom out, zoom in. You can even drop the person on the map. If it's, this is a gated community, nice. So it looks like they weren't able to go in there. But you guys have access to street level view as well, right? And you can go back to the gallery if needed. So first thing, we can show you the photos. So maybe you want to talk about the neighbor. Maybe you want to talk about the neighborhood when you're talking to the homeowner. After that, we're going to give you the property characteristics. So again, in the past, hey, how many beds and bathrooms do you have? What's the year built on your property? Today, hey, my records indicate your property is almost 20 years old, right? When's the last time you did the roof? So a lot of important stuff that 30 years old, actually, a lot of important stuff that you can get. So instead of asking about the year built, you now know what the year built is, and you can apply a different question. A question that's going to answer how the condition of the roof is, or how the condition of the landscaping is, or the plumbing, or whatever it may be. To the right, the property summary. Property type, whether it's on market, whether it's in pre-foreclosure, if it's in an HOA, the owner type, occupancy, how long the owner's lived in this house, how it was purchased, and what county it's in. To the right of that, just a few calculations we're going to provide you, like our calculation of estimated value and last year's estimated value. We'll show you how our calculations have trended over the last 5 years. But the reality is we don't want you to use our calculations. So we're going to go out there and give you the local sales. So we identified 50 properties within a half a mile around this property that sold. Now, we didn't filter these 50 properties, but we did average their sell price out, and we are seeing an average in this market of 1.29. Now, again, this is just how many have sold in the last year within a half mile. If you want more, increase the time, increase your distance. And this is an unfiltered sell amount. We didn't go through the 50 and look for the 4 bedrooms or the 2 bedrooms. This is a collection of everybody's sell price averaged out. To me, the most important is this. Out of the 50 properties, they're averaging in about 2 months or less when they sell. To the right, mortgage and debt summary. So we're going to show you if there's an open mortgage, how much they have on that open mortgage. And again, we can show you up to 4 positions. And then any liens and lien amounts that they have on that property. And finally, the opportunity, what the estimated equity is that we've been able to calculate, the monthly rent, and gross yield. Now, if you're wondering, how did we calculate the estimated equity? Estimated value minus our estimated mortgage balance we've calculated to give you that estimated equity. These numbers are never going to be 100%. I'll give you an example. Mortgage balance could be wrong because someone missed a payment or made extra payments. And so because that mortgage balance is wrong, that equity is going to be wrong. So don't ever think our numbers are 100%. I'm the first to tell you it's not, because there are things that our data can't capture, like any external anomalies. Again, someone making payments or missing on payments. So the final thing that we're going to give you is the last and prior sell. So the public record indicated this property was recorded on the at the county, and then after it was recorded at the county, the agent went on the MLS and updated their records. So the first thing that you get when you pull up a property is this dashboard. And the reason is so that you can ask quick questions like about the property type, about that mortgage, how's that mortgage treating you, and take a look at the equity. And is the equity high enough for you to work with it? So that's the first thing we're going to give you. And if you need way more information than what we're providing you here, that's what these tabs down below are indicating. So the first tab you're going to see is the property details, owner's name, and second owner's name. So if you're talking to Isagani here, you might want to make sure that Teresita is on the line because there's a second owner. You might want to make sure both of them are on the line when you make your offer. Property characteristics, building size, land and location information, like knowing the school district. Maybe asking if their kids go to that school district could help build a relationship. Legal description, tax information, HOA information, and last sell and non-arm length past sell. So any transfers or any regular sells will also be recorded here. Now, to the right of property details is any situational data. So in this case, this property was on the market a few months ago. It sold. That's where we got those photos from, but we also got the agent's description, utility information, listing history as well. Now, again, to the right of property details is situational data. So if a property is, let's say, going through pre-foreclosure, like one of these 14, when we click on the property, to the right of that, you'll see a pre-foreclosure tab. Oh, there's also an MLS tab. So it's going through 2 situational circumstances. In pre-foreclosure, also on market. If you click on a lien, same thing applies when you go into the details. There's the lien tab. Okay, so that's situational data like we talked about. So when I go into a property, not only do I know about the homeowner, but I know about what's been happening on that property. Now to the right is comparables. We'll skip that for just a second. But to the right of that, we'll have tax information for you. Other situational data, such as, hey, they own more than one property. So if they're not interested in selling this house, they might be interested in selling another property of theirs. The mortgage and transaction history. So here at the top, we'll show you any open mortgages, the lender, the recording date, the amount, and down below the transaction history. And finally, documents and reports. So as I'm talking to this homeowner and I'm asking questions and I'm trying to make them feel comfortable, make them feel that I am the person that's going to help them out, right? All of that's going to need to be done by educating them. And I can educate them using the data. I can use the data to help build my credibility because they think I'm a stranger. So, once I make them feel comfortable and I start talking about the year bill and the square footage and how they've lived there for 8 months, they're going to be like, okay, this person's actually a real investor. And that's the point. We don't want you to just be someone random on the street, right? So we want you to use our data to ask the right questions, to build the right, or to build that relationship with them, and then hopefully get them in that right position to make that offer, right? Got to make them comfortable to make that offer. Now, before we make that offer, essentially run our comps, there are a few tools that we provide you before you do that. So the first tool is here at the top, the tags and status. So as you're talking to the homeowner, things might be said, things might be scheduled, things might be done. First thing is status. So here we can say we need to follow up. We left a message, we made an offer, offer accepted, scheduled appointment perhaps. Right. So as you're talking, you can put this property under a status. Then you can tag that property. So when you're talking to the homeowner, you said, yeah, we have some leaking pipes right now. The water is leaking. You can't find out why. We have some fire damage out in the back. And our lawn has been growing for quite some time. Oh, well, we buried our dog in the back, by the way, too. Well, that's not a tag, but it could be. I can hit edit and add my own tag. So buried dog in back, and then hit add. And now I have a buried dog in back tag. So you can hit edit and add your own tags and even rename a tag or even delete it. Maybe you don't want that, so remove it. And finally, notes, right? So let's say you're talking to the homeowner, you hear, two dogs barking in the background, write that down. Or maybe you hear the Laker game playing off in the background and, the family's cheering the Lakers on. You might want to write that down, right? So the notes are just extra space for you to write things that you're catching during a conversation. So status, tags regarding the property, and then notes regarding your conversation. And then last, but certainly not least, the ability to add or tag a team member. So once you're done talking, maybe it needs to go to somebody else on your team. And so you can assign it to a team member here on the right side. Now, when you hit done and apply, the system will have you save the property. So I'm not going to save this property, but when you hit apply, it's going to say you need to save this property. So please save that property. But when you do, here's what your notes will look like. Now, let's do a before and after. So this is a property before notes. And then here's a property with notes. When you go into the details, the notes are dead center. So now when I call back this Sunday, hey, Hovind, thank you so much. Did you catch the Atlanta Falcons game by chance, or right? Or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, whatever it is, Tom Brady's, Tampa Bay now. So we can use that to, again, pick up where we last left off and then go from there. So the first thing that we're going to give you as a tool set to help during the conversation is tags and status. Now, let's say you just love this property, you can't stop thinking about it, and you want to start preparing your buyers about this property, right? So maybe you got it on contract, but now you got to explain all of this to your buyers. How do I explain all of this information to my buyers? I can either create my own little marketing thing, or I can just hit print. By hitting the print button, you do have to save the property. So let's go ahead and do that now. And remember, when you save a property, which is this fourth button here, we're going to send all saved properties into the My Properties page. So in case you ever, were to sign off or hit clear all by accident, as long as you save the property, you can go into My Properties and it's going to be in your My Properties folder. And then you can even click on it and do it from here. But if you hit the print button like we did a few moments ago, you'll first need to save the property. But at the very bottom, we'll give you the CMA report. It's the comparative market analysis report. It gives you all of our data pretty much on this PDF file. So any images of the property, characteristics, listing history, owner history, lien history, mortgage history, transfer information. It shows them the local comps in the area so they can run their own comps if they wanted to. And then any photos of that property and statistics at the very end. So all of that just by clicking the print button. Again, how do I explain this to my buyers or my business partner? You don't. Just hit the print button, hand that over to them, right? And then add your notes on top of it. Analysis. So what if I am the investor? What if I am the one doing the fix and flip? Or what if I want to rent out this property for 15 years? The analysis wizard is designed for you. So here you have to run your own numbers. We're not doing anything for you. We're just giving you a calculator. So in the first tab, that's the purchase tab. How are you buying this house? What are your improvements? When you hit the next at the very bottom, it takes you to the next tab, the mortgage tab. We want to know the type of mortgage you're using. Is it an interest only, combination, accelerated? What's your mortgage information? When you hit next, we want to know your closing costs information for that mortgage. And then when you hit next, you're now in the income page. Well, how much are you renting out this property for? If you're not renting it out, you can hit 0 and 0 this out and then hit next and go to the expenses. How much is coming out of your pocket for owning this property every month? So we want to know how you're buying it and how you're rehabbing it, the type of mortgage you're using, your closing costs, how much you're renting this property out for, how much is coming out of your pocket just owning this property, like taxes, utilities, etc., landscaping perhaps. And then finally, next, we'll take you to the sell page. How are you selling this property? Are you selling it in 6 months? Are you selling it in a year? Are you selling it, or are you renting it out for 15 years? So in this area, this is just a universal analysis wizard. You can find one online, but we decided to put one in here for you. Not only do we decide to put it in here for you, but after you run your analysis, you can go to the last tab, finish, and we can generate a report for you. Now, prior to generate that report, here we can show you what your returns are going to look like and improve your information based on the information that you're punching in. So that's the analysis wizard. And the last thing that I think could be very useful is during your conversation, and this might be an out-of-county property or even an out-of-state property. During your conversation, you might be talking about the condition of the property. It might talk to you about they forgot to do the bathroom remodel, or they didn't have enough funds to do it, or they need to do the painting or the roof. That's what the rehab calculator is for. So as I'm talking to Izagani and Teresita about their mortgage, about the hardship of owning multiple properties, making them comfortable, and then eventually, Izagani goes, look, if you're going to buy this house, one thing I need to warn you about, Burton, is that we forgot to do the bathroom down below. Like we started the project, but COVID hit, boom, we never got to complete the project. We have no funds anymore. So you're telling me you have a gutted bathroom downstairs? That's right. No problem. I can go into the rehab calculator. Again, I'm not a contractor. So when I click on the rehab calculator over here, and you have to have the property saved first and foremost. But by clicking on that, we'll send you to Bluehammer, which is a third-party company we work with. And we're going to give them the address so that they can look at invoices in that zip code. So when you go to Bluehammer, you can start a new project or view one you already did. In this case, I haven't done one. So I'm going to start a new project and call it whatever I want to call it. So just rename it as you see fit. But when you hit let's go, you can do one of two things. If you know what you're doing, if you know I need this, I need that to complete this project, that's searching by individual actions. So you can choose what category and what items you need in that category. Again, you have to know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, then you probably want to use search by popular project. So this right here is like a la carte type of a thing, right? So when the homeowner says, look, I didn't do the bathroom, I need to do a complete remodel. Great. I can go into Bluehammer, click on popular projects, click on bathrooms. When I hit next, here are the things that most rehabbers do when they pick up a property, like accessories, a complete remodel, toilets, tubs, vanities. Well, complete remodel is what we discuss. So when I hit next, what type of complete remodel? A bathroom only, tub and shower, like what's the layout? Well, this one's a natural stone tile that we're looking to get, and it's just a shower only bathroom. Okay. Now, what type of material do you want to use? So if this is like Beverly Hills, you probably want designer stuff. If this is a neighborhood that's not, high end, then you probably want like better stuff. And if you're looking to save a lot of money, then here, economy, right? But for today, we'll use the better stuff. So we pick the project, we pick the category, the subcategory, right? We pick the layout, we pick the quality. Now we need to know where the repairs are being made. Was it being made in the entire house, the kitchen? Nope, just the bathroom. And finally, when we hit add to estimate, Bluehammer takes this data and spits you an average, a retail average. It says, okay, look, based on that zip code, based on the line items or the project that you just selected, here's what the average of all the zip codes or all the invoices we just looked at in that zip code. So it's telling me this type of project in Orange County, California will take about $19,000 retail average. If I did it myself, bought all the parts and pieces at Lowe's, Home Depot, it'll be about $8,900. The number of line items, 47. What this means is how many actual items are on that project. If you want to see those line items, you can hit project details and see all those line items. They can even be edited if you want. So if like you don't, have a toilet already, maybe the toilet was already removed, well, then hit 0 there. And now the values have changed. You can even punch in your own area measurements. If you actually went to the property and pulled out your tape measure and actually got your sizing, you can hit area measurements and let us know, it's a flat ceiling and the short wall's 8.5 feet by 8.5 feet or whatever it is. So by applying this information, it's going to allow us to calculate the local average retail cost for your repair. Then finally, after you see your summary and the details that can be adjusted, project summary or project report gives you a printable format. So now I can hit print estimate. So all of that, as we're talking to the homeowner, we haven't even made an offer yet, okay? Because comping isn't just pick up a phone and just throw out an offer, right? We have to know the person on the other line. So as I'm talking to Sanigani, I have the data, I have the financial stuff, I have the ability to run comps if they tell me about things that need to be done on their property. Rehab. But now they're comfortable. They're like, okay, now that you're familiar with our property, Burton, how much are you offering? So before I go and say anything, I'm going to go into the comparables and nearby listings. And the whole bottom half is going to change. Now, the first 4 boxes are your comparables. The others are the nearby listings. So those aren't so important. Like if you're looking for another motivated seller in the area, then yes, great. If you're looking to just get a value of a property, it's these first 4 boxes. So let's ignore these nearby listings and let's just focus on the first 4. What are they? So comparables are properties that sold and were recorded. That's it, sold and recorded. Now, in comparables, you're going to have access to county records, aka public records. So any real estate transaction, the public records were recorded. And that's why you have these weird colors in your results. Like the purple, that's a family transfer. That brown one, someone built a house and sold it. That green one, that's a cash transaction. Any transaction, the county will record it. So that's the database here. MLS is if an agent sold the property. So these are all the properties where an agent sold. And then both puts them side by side. Now, flip comps. This is going to show you houses that someone bought and then sold in less than 2 years, right? So not just someone buying house, but someone buying it and selling it in less than 2 years. And here's what I like about this list. Not only is it showing me that behavior, but it shows me the address, the property characteristics, the purchase date and purchase amount. So how much this investor paid for that property. And then the flip date and flip amount. So in this example, an address was bought for $1.1 million. And then about a year later, sold for $1.2 million, $160,000 profit on that sale, right? Now, nobody just does that, right? They don't just buy a house and then sell it in less than 2 years. Certain type of audience does that. And that's why we call it the flip comps. Neighbors. So maybe you're in a gated community like this property is in. So let's look at our local neighbors information. And then cash buyers. So unlike flip comps, this is just going to show you who's buying properties in cash. We're not going to show you whether they're flipping them or not. This is just cash transactions. So these are your comparables. Feel free to use any one to get a value in the property. But to be frank with you, everybody uses comparables. And here's what they do. So now that we've made the homeowner comfortable and we've identified that there's a mortgage that needs to be paid off, we've identified the motivation. Maybe they're just tired of owning more than one property, and they just want to get rid of one of them. This happens to be the one, right? So we talk to the homeowners. We know that they have a mortgage. We know they're motivated. Now we got to run comps. So in our comparables, the first one is the most sought after category. The user will need to decide county, MLS, or both records. So we'll use both, for example. And then down below are filters, because we're not doing the comp for you. You need to do the comp, right? So comping means finding comparables, finding similar properties, and these filters are going to help you with that. So we go back a year. Now, if you don't think a year is, if you think a year is too long, feel free to move your date forward. Like we're already in October for 2020, so 2021. So yeah, year's almost over. But if we wanted to go forward And let's say we want to start our search back in perhaps April, go back 6 months. Then here are the properties that sold in the last 6 months. Now, we're going to show you the 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, right? That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for something similar to our subject property here, which is a 4-3. So I can say I need a 4, I need a 3-bedroom minimum. Year built, square footage, what type of MLS status, what type of public record. When it comes to public records, here's what I would advise. Stick with finance. Finance means that the bank approved a 30-year loan. And that's not easily done anymore, right? Banks have to really, really approve it. So stick with finance if you're looking for rehabbed houses. Do you want to see anybody buying more than one property? Include that or exclude that. And you want to go half a mile, or if half a mile is too much because this is a dense neighborhood, maybe you want to do a quarter mile instead, or maybe 0.40 of a mile, or 0.35 of a mile. We'll let you decide that, or you can go 2 miles if you need to. And last but certainly not least, property class and property type. So if you're running comps on the mobile home or you're running comps on the condominium, let us know. In this case, it's a residential single family property. Now, here are your remaining results, your filtered results. Now, we're not done yet. Now, we need to ask the question, why? Why did this address, Sandalwood, which is just north of our subject property, why did that sell for $1.4 million this year? And we can go to the right and compare. Oh, well, it has more bathrooms. Oh, and it has a bigger lot size. So based on that, do you think our house is going to sell for 1.4 million or more? No. Using this comp, I now know the threshold. I know, okay, well, our house is probably going to sell for less than 1.4 million, right? So the idea with comping is to find subject properties that are similar, similar characters, same features, and ask why. So here's a few other one. Here's one right here, a 4-3, 3,100, 800 square footage. We can take a look at that. And here's one last thing I want to share with you. On top of asking why, hey, why did this house sell for 1.4 million? Some of them are going to have photos, and I encourage you to click on that because now you can determine, okay, that $1.4 million, well, there's a pool that's filled, the house has been cleaned up and rehab. It looks like they've done the kitchen, the bathroom, et cetera, right? So the goal is not to just throw out an offer, a random one, because that could piss someone off. The idea is to negotiate, right? So, the homeowner's house, again, missing bathroom. So if the homeowner says, well, Burton, I want 1.442 million for my house, I could say, well, Mr. Homeowner, I'd love to give you that, but there's a house off Sandalwood that sold for $1.4 million. And based on the photos, it's in, intact. The bathroom is done. They have a pool, etc. Yours isn't there. Yours is about 70% completed. That's why I'm offering you 70% of $1.4 million. Now, it's not that easy, right? Because the homeowner is probably not going to be convinced with one comp. So that's why you want to choose more than one comp. Like, how can a 5-3, something bigger, sell for less than something smaller, a 4-3-5, right? Let's take a look. And as you can see, it doesn't look so right? Like the floor looks really old. They probably didn't do the flooring, probably the same flooring from when it was built back in 1979, right? Cabinets are still from that age, right? So unique, but not really fully updated. So granted, that's why they didn't get a higher price. But this is good. Because if the homeowner says, well, I want 1.42, and I say, well, I can't give you that because there's a house that sold for 1.4 that looks better than yours. Next thing the homeowner is going to say, well, I won't take anything lower than 1.3. And then I can say, well, unfortunately, I can't give you 1.3 because there's a house that sold for 1.2. And that house, I mean, it looks great, right? It may be old, but it definitely looks better than the house that we're working with right now, your house. So comping is not about finding a perfect number. It's about the art of negotiating. And here are 2 examples I can use when negotiating with the homeowner. Now, again, you probably want to use more than one. right? Here's one that sold for 930. Whoa, what happened here? Let's take a look at the photo. Okay, this house wasn't really all that done, right? Like you can tell it really didn't have great things done, but that house could look better than your subject property. Let's use that. So when the homeowner says, look, I won't take anything lower than $1 million, I can say, well, there's a house that sold for 930 and it looks better than your property, right? So now I'm able to use data, use facts to lower that price without offending anybody. Now, I don't want to offer them too low that now I can't pay off their mortgage, right? But now I have this perfect like range. I can offer them like 750 up to maybe 930, right? But we're going to play it fair. So we're going to take these three comps and it gives us a new average, right? So based on those three prices, here's your average of the three. And then I can take my calculator, right? Maybe pull out that calculator. And I know what most of us will do is that 70% rule on average. So we can do, $1.1 million and then multiply that by your 70%, right? There we go. And then subtract your rehab and then start making your offer. But again, comping is not about finding a perfect number. It's how can I negotiate? I'm going to offer them. I'm obviously buy the house not at full price. They're not going to be happy. They're going to want full price. So how do I use data to reduce that price? And this is a perfect example of that. Remember, it doesn't have to be exactly the same house, but just to educate them. Hey, I'd love to give you 1.4, but I can't because you got to have a 4-bathroom for that. And you got to have huge lot sizes. Yours doesn't fall under that category. So under 1.4, it goes. Now, here's the final thing you can do in the comps area. You can save your comps in case you need to call them back. You can add these comps to a list, the comps that you've checked out. But here's what I would really encourage you to do. Go to Actions and hit View Comps Report. And in a second, we're going to actually give you our data. So you're going to be able to get this comps report right down here at the bottom left. We actually give you all of our data. So not only do you get on this report the subject properties information. So imagine I'm at the house now. Maybe they told me to come by this afternoon. So, okay, here I am. I'm at the house now, but I'm at the house with this report. So, hey, Izagani and Teresita, thanks for letting me come by today. So like we talked about earlier, I want to buy our house. I did run some comps earlier. I'd like to show you what I came up with. So here's your properties characteristics. Here's my comps criteria. Here's what we found. We found one that sold for as low as 930, one sold as high as 1.4, and the average in this market is about 1.1. Now the homeowner is going to be like, well, I want 1.4. Well, I'd like to give you 1.4, but that 1.4 is a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom. So right then and there, they know they're not getting 1.4. I don't have to argue, right? So they're going to say, well, I want 1.2 then. Well, I can't give you 1.2. Why? Because check out this 930. It's identical to your property. Right? Same square footage almost, right? Almost, I mean, it is a little bit older, so you might get a little bit more out of that, but let me show you where that's at, right? So here's your house. Here's where those houses are. Here's the sources that we use. But on the last page, we're going to show each individual property and the photos as well, right? So now we can show them what that 930 property looks like. And then they're like, oh, I get where you're coming from. So now instead of arguing to get that lower price, which you should never do, you educate and let them know, I'd love to give you full price, but here's why I can't, because your house is not similar to what's selling at full price. As a matter of fact, based on what they're selling for, your house is 70, 60, 50% there. That's why I'm making this offer, right? But to make that offer accordingly, right? If I say, hey, I'd like to offer you 750 in cash, I still have to be aware of their mortgage, right? So if I offer them 650 in cash, that's a quick hang up because there's a mortgage that needs to be paid, right? So comping with PropStream is not just pick up the phone and then make an offer. It's all of this. It's pick up the phone. You're going to talk to the owner about the property, the financial stuff, the situational stuff. Then once you make them feel comfortable using that data, then you're going to go in our comp section, just like I did, and run your comps. But the idea when it comes to comps is it's not to find a perfect price. It's to use what's sold in the area that's similar to educate them and explain why the offer is lower instead of full price, right? So that's how to analyze a deal with PropStream. My name is Burton. Ariel, I can't thank you enough for giving me the time. So let me give that back to you.
Thank you so much, Burton. I really appreciate it. PropStream is such a useful tool from what you've just shown, all from just getting the leads to actually being able to take notes on them, share with your team, as well as analyzing. And I was mind blown with the rehab part as well and the comps. I think it's a really great tool in order for those who are wholesalers or in other roles to be able to build that relationship with potential leads using data. So thank you so much for your time.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me. And I look forward to our next session. So, guys, if you have any questions, make sure to bring them up.